In the past year alone, the average American family now needs more than $120,000 a year just to afford a median home, the highest threshold in U.S. history. Once, our cities symbolized freedom, wealth, and opportunity. Now, they've become places where ordinary families are being priced out of their own lives. But stay with me, because when we get to number 3, the numbers out of that city will stop you in your tracks. In one city, rents have surged by over 40% since the pandemic. In another, the cost of a starter home has doubled in less than 5 years. Wages are frozen, inflation bites deeper. And across the map, the American dream is slipping further out of reach. If you've ever wondered whether your own hometown is safe, you'll want to watch closely, because the most shocking city on this list isn't where you think. Tonight, we reveal the 10 U.S. cities Americans can no longer afford to live in. And the number 1 city is a warning of what could happen to the rest of America next. Seattle, once the shining crown of the Pacific Northwest, has become one of America's most unaffordable cities. More than half of Seattle homeowners now spend over 54% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. That means more than half of every paycheck is gone before groceries, gas, or a single dollar can be saved. The numbers paint a bleak picture. The median home price in Seattle sits near $880,000. Even so-called starter homes, once meant for young families and first-time buyers, have already crossed the $1 million mark in many surrounding suburbs. For ordinary households, ownership has slipped out of reach. To keep housing costs at the standard affordability benchmark, 30% of household income, a family here would need to make at least $126,000 per year. But most households earn far less, forcing people to shoulder burdens that eat away at every corner of their financial lives. The result is a city where workers rent indefinitely, young couples cannot buy, and families are trapped in a cycle of instability. Renting is hardly a safe harbor. Housing in Seattle is more than 112% higher than the national average. The overall cost of living is about 45% above the national average, meaning everyday expenses, from groceries to transportation, compound the pain. Simply existing in Seattle comes with a premium few can sustain. This is not just a personal struggle for households. It's an economic drain on the city itself. When residents spend more than half of their earnings on housing, they have little left for restaurants, local shops, or savings. Businesses lose customers, schools lose funding, and entire neighborhoods hollow out. Economic vitality seeps away as families either leave or cut spending to the bone. The tech industry boom fueled glittering towers and billion-dollar fortunes. But it also reshaped the market beyond recognition. The wealth concentrated at the top widened the gap for everyone else, leaving ordinary workers competing in a housing market priced for the elite. For many longtime residents, the skyline that once inspired pride now casts a shadow of despair. Seattle stands at number 10 on this list. But if families here already give up more than half of their income just to stay housed, what comes next will be even more staggering. By the time we reach number 3, the numbers will force you to question whether the American dream of homeownership can survive at all. Boston is one of America's oldest and most storied cities, where the echoes of history line every cobblestone street. But today, Boston has become a place where the weight of modern housing costs is crushing the very people who built their lives here. Greater Boston's median single-family home price has now crossed the staggering threshold of $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A modest home, not a luxury property, not a downtown penthouse, is now valued at 7 figures. For the average household, it's not simply a stretch, it's an impossibility. To afford that median home under the traditional rule of spending no more than 30% of income on housing, a family would need to make nearly $194,000 a year. Most Boston households don't come close to that number, and the gap grows wider each year. The ratio of home prices to income underscores just how distorted the market has become. Across Massachusetts, the typical home now costs about 6 times the median household income. In Greater Boston, that multiple stretches to 7 times. Historically, housing markets were considered healthy when the price of a home was no more than 3 times household income. Boston has doubled, even tripled that standard, creating a cost of living wall that entire generations can't climb. And the burden doesn't end with buyers. For those who manage to scrape together a down payment, the monthly expenses remain brutal. Homeowners here spend more than 34% of their household income on mortgage payments, taxes, and insurance. That's far above the affordability threshold and leaves little margin for error. Renters face even harsher math. 48% of the median renter's monthly income in Massachusetts disappears into rent. For thousands of families, it means skipping savings, delaying retirement, or working multiple jobs just to stay housed. The social consequences ripple outward. Young professionals are priced out before they can even begin. Families who have called Boston home for generations find themselves forced to leave. Local businesses suffer when households have no disposable income left to spend. Even schools and public services feel the pinch as tax bases shift and populations disperse. The Boston that once promised opportunity is turning into a city where only the wealthy can plant roots. Yet, here's the sobering truth. Boston is only number 9 on our list. If a historic city like this, with world-class universities, hospitals, and culture, has already become unaffordable to the majority of its own residents, what does that say about the cities still to come? Stay with me, because the numbers ahead will make Boston's million-dollar price tags look tame by comparison. Los Angeles. Sprawling, sunlit, full of dreams and palm trees, but now a city where owning anything more than a car is beginning to feel like a luxury. More than 132% is how much more expensive housing costs in Los Angeles are compared to the US average. Whether you're buying or renting, you're paying more than double what most Americans are. Here's what that looks like on the ground. The median price to buy a home in LA is about $931,000. Two-bedroom apartments don't escape the pressure either. The median rent there is $3,800 a month. For a one-bedroom pad, you're looking at prices that force many renters to earn more than $74,720 a year just to meet the affordability baseline, spending no more than 30% of income on housing alone. Now compare that to what most households actually bring in. With home price to income ratios hovering around 12.2 times, the gap between what people earn and what homes cost has ballooned. That ratio means the typical home costs more than 12 years of full median income without deducting anything else like taxes, food, gas, or healthcare. The squeeze shows up in more than just purchase prices. Housing's share of household expenses has eaten into everything else. Renters struggle, first-time buyers are shut out, and working families are opting for long commutes. Many are pushed into neighborhoods miles away or into multi-generation homes just to stretch their budget. Even if you manage to buy, the burden follows. Mortgage payments, property taxes, upkeep, all of it adds up. There's no margin for surprise costs or emergencies. What feels like success for one generation already feels like despair for the next. Then there's the ripple effect. Local businesses lose patronage from residents who can't spend freely. Community ties weaken, wealth concentrates. The city's vibrant culture, its creative energy, its promise, these begin to fray when people are stretched thin just to stay housed. Yet, this is only number 8 on our list. If Los Angeles already demands this level of income just to break even on basic housing, imagine what awaits in cities ranked above. The numbers ahead will make even these high thresholds feel moderate. Stay tuned. The cities ahead only deepen the crisis. San Diego. Sun-washed beaches, blue skies, perfect weather. But for many locals, San Diego has become a gilded trap rather than a paradise. You now need to earn nearly $243,000 a year just to buy a median-priced home. The median home price hovers around $960,000, and that's not for luxury estates overlooking the ocean. These are standard homes in regular neighborhoods, the kind that once would have been within reach for teachers, nurses, and firefighters. Today, even solidly middle-class families are priced out. Housing in San Diego, whether renting or owning, costs more than double the national average, running about 112% higher. The mismatch between what homes cost and what households earn is staggering. Only about 15% of San Diego families can afford to purchase at today's median prices. That means the vast majority, 85%, are already locked out of ownership. The impacts ripple across daily life. Renters face relentless increases that devour household budgets. Families that once dreamed of a starter home in San Diego are pushed further inland, accepting long commutes on crowded freeways. Some leave altogether, uprooting to more affordable states. Others stay, but but double up with relatives or downsize into smaller apartments just to survive. And even for those who do manage to buy, the story is grim. The weight of sky-high mortgage payments, taxes, and upkeep leaves little room for savings or emergencies. One unexpected car repair or medical bill can shatter fragile financial stability. Homeownership, once a mark of security, now feels more like a gamble. This isn't just a personal burden, it's a citywide economic strain. When most families spend nearly everything just to keep a roof overhead, less remains for local businesses. Restaurants lose customers. Retail shops see fewer sales. Schools and public services feel the squeeze as communities hollow out and tax bases weaken. San Diego's beauty comes with a hidden price. Its very desirability drives values to levels that lock out all but the wealthiest. The promise of coastal living has become, for many, a mirage, visible but never attainable. And yet, this is only number 7 on our list. If San Diego already demands nearly a $250,000 income just to stand a chance at ownership, the cities ahead will show you something even darker. By the time we reach number 3, the numbers will make San Diego's crisis look like only the beginning of America's affordability collapse. San Jose, California. Once the engine of American innovation and prosperity, now a city where the price of a home has crossed into the realm of the unthinkable. A typical household in the San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara metro now needs to earn more than $409,000 per year just to purchase an average home. That extraordinary income requirement pairs with a median home price of roughly $1.5 million. These are not mansions overlooking the bay, not sprawling estates for the ultra-wealthy. These are ordinary single-family homes that have been pushed into a price bracket once reserved for billionaires. Renters face their own crushing reality. To cover the cost of a typical apartment in San Jose, you now need an annual income of about $128,000. For many workers, even those in tech, that number is impossibly out of reach. The imbalance between wages and housing prices is stark. San Jose's home price to income ratio hovers near 11-to-1. To put that into perspective, housing markets were once considered affordable when the ratio sat closer to 3-to-1. San Jose's market now requires more than 3 times that level, making home ownership nearly impossible for the majority of its residents. For years, Silicon Valley's booming tech economy concealed the growing problem. High salaries gave the illusion of balance, but as prices escalated far beyond even those paychecks, the mask slipped. Today, even well-paid engineers and executives struggle with the realities of affording housing here. For the middle class, the challenge is insurmountable. Teachers, nurses, first responders, careers that form the backbone of any community, cannot break into the housing market at all. The result is a city where families are forced into difficult choices. Many remain permanent renters, spending large portions of their income just to stay afloat. Others move far outside the city limits, accepting punishing commutes in exchange for modest homes. Some give up altogether, leaving behind the Bay Area entirely. The glittering towers of Silicon Valley symbolize wealth and progress, but at street level, they cast shadows of despair. Neighborhoods that once thrived with local families are now dominated by prices that no ordinary household can sustain. The very idea of planting roots here has become a fantasy. And yet, San Jose is only number 6 on our list. If households here already need over $400,000 a year to buy a modest home, what will we uncover as we climb higher? The thresholds ahead make even Silicon Valley's staggering numbers look tame. By the time we reach number 3, the crisis will redefine what Americans think is even possible. San Francisco, a city of hills, fog, iconic bridges, and soaring ambition. But today, it is a warning. The price of calling this place home has become absurd. Homebuyers here must make close to $395,000 per year just to purchase a median-priced home. That staggering income requirement doesn't account for luxury or view properties. It's for what many would consider a standard family home in many parts of town. The ratio between what homes cost and what people earn has stretched to 10-to-1. A decade ago, that multiple was far lower. Today, many households confront a number so large it feels like a wall rather than a hurdle. Then there's the cost of living beyond the front door. For a family of 4 to live comfortably in San Francisco now requires earnings near $339,000 a year. That's not aspirational, it's essential just to keep up. People here feel it everywhere. rents climbing in neighborhoods once considered affordable, modest apartments getting gutted up into high-end units, and middle-income earners priced out of the market entirely. Commuters endure long drives or costly transit to reach jobs after being pushed far from the center. Some put off raising children, some give up trying to buy entirely, resigning themselves to renting indefinitely. Even those who do buy find the gap between what they pay and what they earn leaves virtually nothing left over. High taxes, insurance, utility bills, cumulatively, they erode the dream. Homeownership feels less like stability and more like carrying weight uphill with no rest. It's not just about how much you make, but how far that money stretches. San Francisco's past prestige as a place of upward mobility now clashes with the modern reality. Wealth inequality baked into real estate. San Francisco is only number 5 on this list. But you're seeing how steep the climb has already become. As we move up towards City 3, the numbers will stop being shocking. They'll become almost unimaginable. Stay ready, because next up are places where home feels increasingly like a luxury you can no longer afford, and where the idea of stability is under threat like never before. New York City, a place of towering ambition, relentless pace, and now, a place where owning a home feels like climbing Everest with no oxygen. The median home price has surged to about $818,000 in New York City. That number doesn't lie. It means that for most people, buying a decent home here has become a far-off dream. Compare that with what people actually earn. The median household income is about $79,000. Homes are routinely priced at more than 10 times that amount. In other words, New York City's price-to-income ratio is about 10 to 1. Even modest properties, small apartments or fixer-uppers, are now stretched beyond reach for many. The demand is massive, supply is constrained, neighborhoods that were once affordable are now priced for investors. The gap between size, location, and what you can afford has distorted what normal housing means here. Renters struggle under the same sky. Rents climb, competition heats up, and neighborhoods shift as affordability craters. Many residents are forced to move further away, paying more for commute and less for quality of life. Some families give up entirely on buying, resigning themselves to renting forever or leaving for cheaper metros. The financial pressure hits everywhere, not just in listings and for sale signs, but in daily bills, utilities, transportation, groceries. Everything costs more when you're living in a city built for wealth. Even those who manage to buy are shadowed by debts, rising property taxes, and expenses that eat away at any savings. New York City's infrastructure, its energy, its promise of opportunity, all of it now rides on a precarious balance. Because when homes cost 10 times what you make, there's little buffer for anything else. Emergencies, dreams, futures. Yet, this is only number 4 on our list. If New York City feels extreme, wait until you see what's ranked 3, 2, and 1. The cities ahead will challenge what you thought was possible when it comes to cost, value, and what it means to own a home in America today. Brace yourself, because the shock doesn't lessen from here, it intensifies. Miami, the glittering gateway to the tropics, where sunshine meets surf, and lately, where the dream of home has become a luxury few can afford. The median home price in Miami has climbed to about $625,000 in August 2025. That alone sounds daunting, but when you factor in that home prices are rising at nearly 9% year over year, the weight of that number becomes much heavier. Homes here aren't just expensive, they're accelerating away. Then there's the ratio between what these homes cost and what people earn. In Miami, the price-to-income gap sits near 8.5 to 1. In other words, the typical home costs more than 8.5 times what the median household brings in. If your income is $72,030 a year, your buying power is being stretched into a distant mirage. Renting doesn't offer relief. Apartments that once appeared reasonable now demand higher premium. Listing prices are up, neighborhoods shift, residents scramble. Families are forced further from the center or into smaller, older units just to make ends meet. Buyers face down payments that hover into tens of thousands. Mortgages feel like burdens, utilities, taxes, insurance. They all compound in a city where every dollar swallowed by housing removes another from savings, education, or peace of mind. Some hold on to hope in neighborhood charms, in communities that once felt accessible. But as prices surge and incomes lag, hope feels drawn thin. New construction often targets luxury tiers, entry points vanish, and what was once a starter neighborhood becomes another tier of exclusivity. The social cost is immediate. Commutes stretch longer. Choices narrow. Those who move stay vigilant, wondering which monthly payment will break them. The trap closes. Stay and stretch, or depart and leave behind roots. This is Miami's reality, a place of beauty and brightness held together by heavy price tags. But what's more striking is that this city, iconic and desirable, already demands income levels and sacrifices many never expected. And yet, Miami is only number 3 on this list. If living here feels like scaling a mountain, brace yourself. Numbers for the top 2 cities make Miami's peaks look like foothills. Stay with me, because what comes next will make you rethink not just what you can afford, but where the limits of affordability even begin. Washington, D.C., a seat of power, monuments, global diplomacy. Now a city where even walking past the capital won't protect you from staggering home prices. The median sale price in Washington, D.C. has surged to about $635,000 in 2025. That number alone feels enormous, but when you compare it to the rest of America, it feels unreachable. The average home value in the city is still hovering near $603,000. Homes are expensive, and the margin for error is razor thin. Then there's what people actually earn. Median household income in Washington, D.C. is around $106,000. Even that level of income, which is far above the national average, stretches thin when homes cost more than $600,000. Many residents find themselves in a bind. Rent isn't cheap, buying is even harder. Neighborhoods once considered affordable have shifted. Small-scale units and modest homes are snapped up. Multi-unit buildings now carry price tags that feel outrageous. The gap between what's necessary to live here and what is possible is growing visibly. For those who do manage to buy, the burden remains heavy. Down payments are steep, property taxes and insurance can shock new homeowners, and maintenance costs compound faster than many expect. The cost isn't just in dollars, it's in trade-offs. Lifestyle, freedom, flexibility. Many people now choose between stay and stretch, or leave entirely. And while Washington, D.C. still offers unique advantages, institutions, culture, prestige, its housing crisis puts even those into harsh competition. Big incomes are now just baseline. Everything above that is often what's needed just to secure something stable. Long commutes, high utility bills, crowded transit, expensive groceries, they all magnify the core issue: your home costs too much. This is number 2 on our list. If Washington, D.C., with all its power and prestige, demands these kinds of numbers just for something many once called a modest home, what does that say about the very top city? The number 1 city will reveal something nearly unimaginable, where homeownership is becoming something few believe they can keep. Stay with me, because by the time we hit number 1, the shock won't just be in price, but in what it costs to simply call a city home in America today. Honolulu, paradise to many, but for most, a place where home has become something you stop chasing and start making excuses for. On Oahu, the median single-family home now sells for about $1.1 million. That figure shocks because elsewhere, home values are softening. In Honolulu, the typical home value is about $753,000, and that number has slipped slightly down around 2% over the past year. But that drop doesn't ease the burden. It just highlights how far above the rest of the country this market floats. What makes the imbalance obvious is how little people actually make compared to what homes cost. Honolulu's price-to-income ratio sits near 9.1 to 1. Compare that to many places where that ratio is maybe 4 or 5. Ninth home values cost more than 9 times what the median family earns. It's a gulf many can't cross. In Honolulu County, the area median income is about $129,000. Even with that income, owning a home here demands incomes that stretch far beyond what most households have saved or can borrow. The strain shows up in every corner of life. Commutes become longer because people move farther away. Savings drop to zero. Opportunities for investment, retirement, or even modest luxuries feel like distant dreams. What once felt like small trade-offs become the everyday. Here, living in paradise means living with premiums, not just for location, but for everything from property maintenance to insurance, from taxes to the cost of imported goods. Essentials cost more, and housing eats up an ever larger share of what remains. And even as sellers and listings adjust, there are few affordable entry points. New supply is often luxury tier or high-end. Older homes are either beyond repair or priced for profit. Renting gets squeezed too, a refuge for some, but still heavily weighted against those trying to build toward ownership. Honolulu holds the top spot on this list, not because it is the most glamorous, but because it is the most unforgiving. If you can barely breathe under its price tags, it means the air is getting too thin in many American cities. Because this is number one. And if city number one makes you feel small, that's exactly the point. What we've seen in the rest, the steep prices, the gap between earnings, and what it costs to live. They all build up to this. Honolulu reveals how extreme the affordability crisis has become. It's not just about having a roof overhead. It's about whether home is a place you can afford to stay. 10 cities, 10 different stories. Yet together, they reveal a single truth. America's housing crisis is no longer creeping at the edges. It is consuming the very heart of our cities. From Seattle's crushing mortgage burdens to Honolulu's million-dollar thresholds, the message is unmistakable. Home is becoming less a place of refuge and more a luxury reserved for the few. Wages cannot keep up. Savings vanish. Families scatter. And the American dream, once rooted in the promise of stability, feels more fragile with each passing year. But here is the real warning. If these cities are already collapsing under the weight of unaffordability, how long before the pattern spreads everywhere else? How long before your city, your street, your home faces the same impossible math? This is not just about numbers, it's about futures. And if you want to know where this story goes next, stay with us. Subscribe now, because the unraveling of America is only beginning, and the next chapter will be even more revealing than the last.